A very warm hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us as we dive into a story that, for centuries, it really makes you think. We're going to be unpacking one of the most incredible narratives from the Quran, from Surah Al Kahf. It's a chapter that's just overflowing with lessons about faith, about patience, and about the hidden wisdom that's so often working behind the scenes in our lives.
I mean, think about it for a second. Have you ever had that happen to you? Where a door just slams shut in your face, a plan completely falls apart, or a situation feels so unfair. And then way down the line, maybe months or even years later, you look back and you go, oh, now I get it. That feeling right there, that's the heart of the journey we're about to explore together.
All right, so let's jump right in. But here's the twist. We're actually going to start at the end. We're dropping into the story right at its climax, that moment where the partnership between two incredible figures, the Prophet Musa and his mysterious, wise guide, Khidr, finally hits its breaking point. Can you just feel the tension in those words? After this wild journey full of things that just did not make sense, Khidr says, okay, this is it. We're done. But this isn't just some angry goodbye. It's a promise that he's finally going to pull back the curtain and reveal the incredible logic that Musa, and by extension, all of us, just couldn't see. And here's the key thing to get. This parting, it wasn't a failure. Not at all. It was more like a graduation. The whole journey was a classroom, and it was designed to teach this one single profound lesson. What we see with our own eyes is just a tiny little sliver of the full picture. The unseen reality is always wider. So now that we know where this is all headed, let's hit rewind. Let's go back and look at the three events that pushed Prophet Musa's patience to the absolute edge. I mean, these are the moments that made him question everything, and they hold all the keys to understanding this idea of a hidden mercy. Okay, so put yourself in Musa's shoes for a second. You're with this guide, this holy man, and he suddenly starts damaging a boat. And not just any boat. It belongs to these poor, hard-working fishermen, the very people you'd think he'd be trying to help. It looks like a terrible, cruel thing to do. Musa was just baffled. You can almost hear him thinking, why on earth would you do this? And here's the first big reveal. The outward action, what everyone saw, was damaging the ship. But the hidden mercy? Khidr had knowledge of the unseen. He knew that just up the river there was a tyrant king who was seizing every single boat that was in perfect condition. By making a small, easily repairable flaw in their boat, he actually saved those fishermen from losing everything. A tiny bit of harm prevented a total disaster. Now, the next event, this one is tough. It's the one that really shakes you to your core. The guide, Khidr, takes the life of a young boy. And this feels like it crosses every moral line imaginable. How could this, in any possible universe, be an act of mercy? This was the ultimate test. So how do we even begin to understand this? Well, the explanation we're given is incredibly profound. We're told that God, in his infinite knowledge, knew that this boy was destined to grow up and become a tyrant who would cause his devout, faithful parents so much pain that it would drive them to lose their own faith. So this act, as devastating as it was a protection for the parents' faith, with the divine promise that they would be blessed with another child, one who was purer and a source of mercy for them. It's a powerful, almost painful lesson in how divine mercy can work in ways that are just way beyond our limited understanding. So after those two really jarring events that looked like pure harm, the journey takes another twist. This time, it's an act of what seems like completely unrewarded, even pointless kindness. So get this. Musa and Khidr show up in a town, and the people are just awful to them. They refuse them food, water, any kind of hospitality. But what does Khidr do? He sees a wall that's about to fall down, and he just starts rebuilding it for free, for these people who wouldn't even help them. Musa is probably thinking, what are you doing? Why help people who wouldn't lift a finger for us? And this is where you get this just beautiful, heartwarming twist. That wall wasn't just a wall. It was a guardian. See, buried underneath it was a treasure, an inheritance left by a righteous, God-fearing father for his two young sons, who were now orphans. By fixing that wall, Khidr was making sure their treasures stayed safe until they were old enough to claim it. It was an act of mercy. All because of the goodness of a parent they might not have even remembered. Now, listen very closely to the words here. This is so important. When Khidr explains damaging the ship, he says, "So I intended to damage it." Scholars point out this is a sign of incredible respect. He takes ownership of the action that looked bad, attributing it to himself. But then, for the wall, that act of pure, untainted good, look how the language flips. He says, "So your Lord intended." He attributes the pure mercy, the pure goodness, directly to God. That tiny shift in wording is a whole lesson in itself about where all true goodness comes from. So, we've been deep in these very personal, spiritual lessons, right? And then the chapter just zooms out. It completely changes perspective and introduces us to a totally different kind of story, the story of a righteous ruler named Dhul-Qarnayn. He is the example of visible power and justice in the world. So you might be asking, who is this Dhul-Qarnayn guy? Well, the Quran presents him not as some mythical conqueror, but as a just and powerful leader. God gave him everything: the resources, the authority, the ability to travel all over the world and establish justice. And this is the whole point about power in this story. Dhul-Qarnayn was given all of this influence and ability, but it wasn't for him. It wasn't to build his own empire or stroke his own ego. The purpose of his power was to serve, to guide, and to establish justice for others. It's really the ultimate template for what righteous leadership looks like. Okay, so we have these two seemingly separate stories: Musa's mysterious journey into the unseen and Dhul-Qarnayn's very visible worldly rule. What's the thread that connects them? What's the big lesson here for our lives? When you boil it all down, these stories are trying to get us to look deeper. They teach us that sometimes what looks like harm is actually a shield. What feels like a loss is actually protection from something worse. They show us that divine wisdom has layers, and that the goodness of our parents can ripple through time to protect us. And ultimately, they teach us that whether you have spiritual knowledge or worldly power, true strength is measured by your humility and your commitment to justice. And that's really the thought I want to leave you with. The next time you're facing a challenge, a setback, a moment where nothing makes sense, maybe the question isn't, why is this happening to me? Maybe the real question is, what is the hidden mercy here that I just can't see yet?